Clara wasn't just any girl, she was an heiress. That meant she was going to inherit a lot of money and fancy things. But right now, all she wanted was to disappear. Big trouble was chasing her, the kind that makes your heart thump like a drum. She had to leave her big house and her fancy clothes behind. She needed to find a place where no one knew her name, a place to hide. Imagine a secret plan, carefully made. Clara traded her expensive car for a beat-up old truck and packed a small bag with plain clothes. No jewels, no sparkly dresses, just jeans and t-shirts. She cut her long, shiny hair short and dyed it a plain brown. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Good. Her escape started late one night. The city lights faded in her rearview mirror as she drove toward the countryside. Miles and miles of open road stretched before her, leading to somewhere new. Somewhere safe, she hoped. The sun peeked over the horizon as she arrived at a tiny town, so small it barely had a name on the map. This was it. Her new hiding place. Her new life was beginning, but she was very scared. The town was called Harmony Creek, but Clara wasn't sure how much harmony she'd find. It looked peaceful enough, with rows of green fields and houses with big porches. She parked her truck at the edge of town and took a deep breath. Time to become someone else. First thing, a new name. Clara couldn't use her real name, not even for a minute. She thought hard. What about Claire? It sounded a little like Clara, but different enough. Claire something. Claire Miller. Yes, that sounded ordinary. Safe. She found a tiny, run-down motel on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was private. The lady at the front desk was old and friendly, with kind eyes. "Welcome to Harmony Creek," she said with a smile. "Staying long?" "Just passing through," Claire said quickly, hoping she sounded convincing. She signed the register with her new name, her hand shaking just a little. Claire Miller. It felt strange, like trying on someone else's clothes. Upstairs, in her small room, Claire looked out the window. Harmony Creek seemed quiet, almost sleepy. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a little peace here. Maybe she could really disappear. But the fear was still there, a cold knot in her stomach. She knew she had to be careful. Very careful. The next morning, Claire knew she couldn't just stay in the motel room. She needed to find a way to earn money, to blend in. She decided to go to the town's market, hoping to see if anyone was hiring. The market was small but bustling with activity. Farmers were selling fresh fruits and vegetables, and townsfolk were chatting and laughing. Claire felt like an outsider, watching from the edge. She walked past a stall piled high with shiny red apples. A man with kind eyes and a friendly smile stood behind it. "Good morning," he said. "Beautiful day for apples, isn't it?" Claire managed a small smile. "It is," she said. "They look delicious." "They are." He chuckled. "Name's Ethan, by the way. I own the farm just outside of town." "Claire," she replied, offering her hand. "I'm new here." "Welcome to Harmony Creek, Claire," Ethan said, shaking her hand. His hand was strong and calloused, but his grip was gentle. "Looking for anything in particular?" Claire hesitated. "Actually," she said, "I was wondering if anyone was hiring." Ethan's eyes lit up. "As a matter of fact," he said, "I could use some help on the farm." "Are you afraid of a little hard work?" Claire had never done a day of real work in her life. Her hands were soft, used to holding teacups, not tools. But she couldn't let Ethan know that. "Not at all," she said, trying to sound confident. "I'm not afraid of hard work." Ethan grinned. "Great. How about you come out to the farm tomorrow morning? I can show you around, and we can see if it's a good fit." Claire agreed, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. She had a job. A way to earn money and stay hidden. But what did she know about farming? Nothing. The next morning, Claire arrived at Ethan's farm. It was much bigger than she expected, with fields stretching as far as she could see. Chickens clucked in a pen, and cows mooed in the distance. Ethan was waiting for her, wearing overalls and a straw hat. "Ready to get your hands dirty?" he asked, handing her a pair of gloves. Claire took the gloves, her stomach twisting. She was definitely going to get her hands dirty. Very dirty. Ethan started by showing her how to pick tomatoes. It looked easy, but it wasn't. The sun was hot, the tomatoes were heavy, and her back already ached. This was going to be much harder than she thought. This was going to be a challenge. Days turned into weeks, and Claire's body ached in places she didn't even know existed. She was slow at picking vegetables, clumsy with the farm equipment, and constantly covered in dirt. The other farmhands, who had been doing this their whole lives, worked circles around her. She tried her best to keep up, but it was exhausting. At lunch, she would sit quietly, picking at her sandwich, feeling embarrassed by her lack of skill. She saw Ethan watching her, a thoughtful look on his face. He never said anything mean, but she knew he could see how much she was struggling. One afternoon, while she was struggling to lift a heavy bucket of water for the chickens, Ethan came over to her. "Here, let me help you with that," he said, taking the bucket from her. "I can do it," Claire insisted, but her arms were trembling. "I know you can," Ethan said gently, "but there's no shame in asking for help. Farming is hard work, especially when you're just starting out." He showed her a better way to lift the bucket, using her legs instead of her back. "See?" he said. "A little easier, right?" Claire tried it, and it was. "A little." "Thanks," she said, feeling grateful for his kindness. Maybe, just maybe, she could learn to do this. Maybe she could really fit in here after all. That night, Claire lay in bed, her body aching, her mind racing. She thought about her old life, the life she had left behind. A life of luxury, of parties and fancy dresses, but also a life of expectations and control. Flashback. Clara, dressed in a beautiful gown, stood in a grand ballroom. Sparkling chandeliers lit up the room, and music filled the air. But Clara wasn't happy. Her father, a powerful and stern man, stood beside her, introducing her to a man she didn't want to marry. "Clara," her father said, his voice cold, "this is Mr. Davenport. He is a very important man, and it is your duty to marry him." Clara's heart sank. She didn't love Mr. Davenport. He was old and mean, and she knew he only wanted her for her money. But her father wouldn't listen. He had made up his mind. "I can't," Clara whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't want to." Her father's grip tightened on her arm. "You will do as you are told," he hissed. "Our family's future depends on it." That was the moment Clara knew she had to escape. She couldn't let her father control her life. She had to find her own way, even if it meant leaving everything behind. End flashback. Claire closed her eyes, the memory still painful. She was safe now, at least for the moment. But she knew her past could catch up with her at any time. As the weeks passed, Claire started to get used to the rhythm of farm life. She was still clumsy, but she was getting stronger. Her hands were no longer soft, but calloused and brown. She even started to enjoy the work, the feeling of the sun on her skin, the smell of the earth, the satisfaction of a hard day's labor. Ethan often joined her for lunch, and they would talk about everything and nothing. He told her about his farm, his dreams for the future, and his love for Harmony Creek. Claire told him stories about her old life, carefully leaving out the details that would reveal her true identity. One evening, after a long day of harvesting corn, Ethan invited Claire to stay for dinner. He cooked a simple meal of roasted chicken and vegetables, all grown on his farm. As they ate, Claire felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. "This is really good," Ethan, she said, smiling. Thanks, he said, his eyes meeting hers. It's always better when you share it with someone. Claire's heart fluttered. She was starting to care for Ethan, more than she wanted to admit. But she knew she couldn't let herself get too close. Her past was still a threat, and she didn't want to put him in danger. But how could she resist his kindness, his warmth, his genuine goodness? It was becoming harder and harder every day. One sunny afternoon, while Claire was weeding the garden, a strange car pulled up to the farm. A tall man in a dark suit got out. He looked out of place in Harmony Creek, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He scanned the farm, his eyes cold and calculating. Claire's heart leaped into her throat. She recognized him. He was one of her father's men, someone she had seen around the mansion many times. He must have found her. She ducked down behind a row of tomato plants, hoping he wouldn't see her. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone and quickly texted Ethan, stranger at the farm. Be careful. The man approached Ethan, who was working on a tractor. Excuse me, the man said, his voice smooth but menacing. I'm looking for a young woman. Her name is Clara. Ethan frowned. I don't know anyone by that name, he said, his eyes narrowing. She's about your age, with brown hair. She might be using a different name, the man continued, his gaze sweeping over the farm again. Have you seen anyone like that around here? Claire held her breath, praying Ethan wouldn't give her away. Her safe haven might be crumbling around her. The fear was back, stronger than ever. She knew she had to do something, but what? Ethan, his eyes narrowed, replied to the stranger, like I said, I don't know anyone named Clara. And I don't appreciate you coming onto my property and asking questions about people. His voice was calm, but Claire could see the steel in his eyes. The man in the suit didn't back down. Just trying to help a friend, he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. If you see her, tell her Mr. Davenport is very worried about her. He handed Ethan a card and turned to leave, his gaze lingering on the tomato plants where Claire was hiding. As the car drove away, Ethan rushed over to Claire. Are you okay? He asked, his voice full of concern. Who was that man? What's going on? Claire, still trembling, stood up. I can't explain, she stammered. Not now. She ran back to the motel, leaving Ethan standing in the field, his brow furrowed with worry. Ethan watched her go, his heart heavy. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew Claire was in trouble. And he wasn't going to let her face it alone. He had to find out what was going on and protect her, no matter what. The gentle farmer was ready to fight for the woman he was quickly falling in love with. That evening, Ethan went to the motel to see Claire. He knocked gently on her door. After a moment, she opened it, her eyes red and swollen. Claire, Ethan said softly, I know something's wrong. You can trust me. Please, tell me what's going on. Claire hesitated, tears streaming down her face. She knew she couldn't keep her secret any longer. Ethan deserved to know the truth. She took a deep breath and invited him inside. In the small motel room, Claire told Ethan everything. She told him about her real name, about her wealthy family, and about the forced marriage she was running away from. She told him about her father's power and the lengths he would go to get her back. As she spoke, Ethan listened patiently, his eyes filled with concern and understanding. He didn't interrupt, he didn't judge. He simply held her hand and let her talk. When she was finished, Claire felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It felt good to finally tell someone the truth. But she was also scared. Scared of what Ethan would think of her, scared of what he would do. I understand if you want me to leave, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I wouldn't blame you. Ethan squeezed her hand. Claire, he said, I'm not going anywhere. But don't you understand? Claire said, her voice rising. My father is a powerful man. He won't stop until he finds me. He could hurt you, Ethan. I don't want to put you in danger. Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with determination. I don't care about your father's power, he said. I care about you, Claire, or Clara. Whatever your name is, I care about you. And I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. He took her hands in his. We'll figure this out together, he said. We'll find a way to keep you safe. Claire looked at Ethan, her heart swelling with emotion. She couldn't believe how kind and brave he was. He was willing to risk everything for her, a woman he had only known for a few weeks. Thank you, she whispered, tears streaming down her face again. Thank you, Ethan. Now, Ethan said, his voice practical, we need a plan. Your father knows you're here, or at least he suspects it. We need to be careful. He paused, thinking. First thing, you can't stay here anymore. It's too easy to find you. Ethan helped Claire pack her few belongings. They decided she would stay at his farmhouse for now. It was more secluded than the motel, and he could keep a better eye on things. As they drove to the farm, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She kept glancing in the rearview mirror, but she didn't see anything suspicious. Still, her heart pounded in her chest. When they arrived at the farmhouse, Ethan led Claire inside. It was a cozy, comfortable place, filled with the scent of wood and fresh-baked bread. Ethan showed her to a spare bedroom, assuring her that she would be safe there. Later that night, as they sat on the porch, watching the stars, they heard a car approaching. It was the same dark sedan that had been at the farm earlier. The car stopped in front of the house, and the man in the suit got out. Clara, he called out, his voice echoing through the night. I know you're in there. Come out, and let's not make this difficult. Claire gasped, her eyes wide with fear. Ethan stood up, his jaw tight. She's not going anywhere with you, he said, his voice firm. You need to leave now. The man in the suit smirked. We'll see about that, he said, and started walking toward the house. Ethan stood his ground, blocking the man's path. I said, she's not going anywhere, he repeated, his voice louder this time. This is my property, and I'm asking you to leave. The man chuckled. You don't understand who you're dealing with, farmer, he said, his hand reaching inside his jacket. This doesn't have to get ugly. Just hand over Clara, and everyone goes home happy. Claire, watching from the doorway, couldn't stand it anymore. She ran outside and stood beside Ethan. Leave him alone, she said, her voice trembling but firm. I'm not going back with you. The man turned to Claire, his eyes narrowing. Clara, don't be foolish, he said. Your father is very upset. He just wants you to come home. Home? Claire scoffed. That's not my home. That's a prison. You're making a mistake, the man said, taking another step closer. A big mistake. Suddenly, Ethan stepped in front of Claire, shielding her from the man. He pushed the man back, his strength surprising. Get off my property, Ethan growled. Before I call the sheriff. The man stumbled backward, his face contorted with anger. You'll regret this, he spat, and turned to walk back to his car. As the dark sedan sped away, Ethan turned to Claire, his face etched with concern. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Claire shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm okay, she said, but he'll be back, Ethan. I know he will. We won't let him, Ethan said, his voice resolute. We'll call the sheriff, and we'll tell him everything. They went inside and called the sheriff, explaining what had happened. The sheriff, a kind and understanding man, promised to investigate. He also alerted the other townsfolk, warning them to be on the lookout for the suspicious stranger. The next morning, the townspeople of Harmony Creek rallied around Ethan and Claire. They brought food, offered support, and promised to protect them from any harm. They knew Ethan was a good man, and they wouldn't let anyone hurt him or the woman he was trying to protect. Mrs. Gable, the motel owner, even offered to let Claire stay at her house, saying it would be safer than the farmhouse. The town was small, but its heart was big. Everyone was ready to stand up for what was right and protect one of their own. Claire was touched by their kindness. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. The sheriff and his deputies patrolled the town, keeping a watchful eye out for the man in the suit. They checked all the roads leading in and out of Harmony Creek, making sure he didn't return. A few days later, the sheriff received a call from a neighboring town. The man in the suit had been spotted at a gas station. The sheriff and his deputies quickly mobilized, tracking him down and apprehending him. It turned out the man had a warrant out for his arrest on other charges. He was taken into custody, and the authorities contacted Claire's father, informing him of his employee's arrest. Claire's father, realizing the trouble he had caused, was filled with remorse. He sent a message to Claire, apologizing for his actions and promising to let her live her life as she pleased. He also assured her that he would never force her into a marriage she didn't want. A few days later, Claire's parents arrived in Harmony Creek. They were humble and apologetic, expressing their gratitude to Ethan and the townspeople for protecting their daughter. They had finally realized that their daughter's happiness was more important than anything else. They had also been informed about Mr. Davenport's less than stellar reputation. They realized they had nearly made a grave mistake. Claire's parents begged her to come home, promising her a life of freedom and independence. They offered her everything she had ever wanted, a chance to travel the world, to pursue her dreams, to be happy. But Claire hesitated. She looked at Ethan, standing beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. She looked at the townspeople of Harmony Creek, their faces filled with warmth and acceptance. She realized that she had already found what she was looking for. She had found a home, a family, and love. "Thank you," Claire said to her parents, her voice filled with emotion. "But I'm not coming home. Not yet, anyway." Her parents looked surprised, but they understood. They could see the love in Claire's eyes, the happiness she had found in Harmony Creek. They knew that she was finally where she belonged. "We understand, darling," her mother said, her voice choked with tears. "We just want you to be happy." "We'll visit often," her father added, offering Ethan his hand. "Thank you for taking care of our daughter." Ethan shook his hand, his eyes meeting Claire's. He knew that she had made the right decision. They would build a life together in Harmony Creek, a life filled with love, happiness, and freedom. After Claire's parents left, life in Harmony Creek settled into a peaceful rhythm. The fear and uncertainty had faded away, replaced by a sense of contentment and joy. Claire continued to work on Ethan's farm, her hands now strong and capable. She learned to drive the tractor, to milk the cows, and to plant the seeds. She loved the feeling of being connected to the land, of working alongside Ethan to create something beautiful and nourishing. One warm summer evening, as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset, Ethan turned to Claire, his eyes filled with love. "Claire," he said, "I know we haven't known each other for very long, but I feel like I've known you my whole life. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Claire's heart fluttered. She had been waiting for this moment, dreaming of it every night. "I love you too, Ethan," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "More than anything in the world." Ethan smiled and took her hand in his. "Will you marry me, Claire?" he asked, his eyes shining with hope. Claire's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Yes, Ethan," she said, her voice trembling. "Yes, I will." Years passed in Harmony Creek. Ethan and Claire worked side by side on the farm, their love growing stronger with each passing season. They welcomed children into their lives, filling their home with laughter and joy. Claire's parents visited often, showering their grandchildren with love and attention. They had come to appreciate the simple life that Claire had chosen, a life filled with genuine connection and happiness. Claire never forgot her past, but it no longer haunted her. She had learned from her experiences, becoming a stronger and more resilient person. She used her wealth to help others in the community, supporting local charities and providing opportunities for those in need. One day, as she walked through the fields with Ethan, their children running ahead of them, Claire smiled. She had found everything she had ever wanted, not in a world of wealth and privilege, but in a small town, with a kind farmer who loved her unconditionally. She had found her true home, her true family, and her true self. And she knew that she would never trade it for anything in the world. Their life was a testament to the power of love, kindness, and the courage to follow your heart. It was a happy ending indeed. And so, the desperate heiress who had once run from her gilded cage found freedom and love in the most unexpected of places. She had traded her tiaras for tomatoes, her ball gowns for overalls, and her loneliness for the warmth of a loving community. She learned that true happiness wasn't found in wealth or status, but in the simple things in life, the love of family, the beauty of nature, and the satisfaction of hard work. As the sun set over Harmony Creek, casting a golden glow on the fields, Ethan and Claire stood hand in hand, watching their children play. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with love and gratitude. They had faced challenges and overcome obstacles, but their love had only grown stronger. They embraced, a silent promise to continue supporting each other, to cherish their family, and to appreciate the simple blessings of their life in Harmony Creek. Their embrace was a symbol of their commitment, their love, and their unwavering belief in the power of kindness and connection. It was the perfect ending to a story that began with fear and uncertainty but blossomed into a beautiful and lasting love.